Pretty much everyone except the foundation of Black Americans. I hate you niggas. I hate you niggas. Let's die. If I could gather all of you in one place with a strap to my chest, you know what time it is. We're gonna have a party. We're gonna blow up the spot. More like me. I'm doing society a favor. But yeah, everybody else, happy Black History Month. I'm even feeling generous towards the biracials. I feel like they've been good recently. They can have that third week.
One, Jeremy here from the Quartering, and the world's largest political streamer, Asmongold, introduced me into what many are calling an extremely helpful tool. And of course, the left is melting down because they're big mad. Look, I think it's hilarious. I think some might actually think it's a helpful tool. And to be honest with you, I bet you I know which demographic is probably using this app the most, and it's not white people.
And modern problems require modern solutions.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. New filters that we can add. So, since Asmongold laughed so hard at our Hellcat filter, I've reworked the entire system, introducing the Hoopty Index. All Dodge Chargers and Challengers, Nissan Altima Maximas, you should have three. Oh, it is on there. Infiniti G35s, G37s, and Chrysler 300s. Now, I would argue that Chrysler 300s, these were a clear indicator when I was selling cars. But that was a long time ago. I don't know if the Chrysler 300 is technically still.
They're going after every minority group except Black people. I mean, you're trying to reduce crime. You're just giving them more room to breathe. But I understand. Can you imagine the shape you have to be in to deport Black people? Yeah, I'm actually trained.
Короче, вот такие товарищи у нас прибыли. Вот. What's your name?
Francis.
Сай, уголек ты. Крывашка ты сегодня. Сейчас побежит. По лесу будет скакать. Вот. Чё-то очкуешь. Очкуй. Давай, пшел. Пшел, сказать. Давай, иди. Иди. Все. Короче, вот такие товарищи у нас прибыли. Вот. What's your name?
Francis.
Сейчас побежит. По лесу будет скакать. Вот. Чё-то очкуешь. Очкуй. Давай, пшел. Пшел, сказать. Давай, иди.
Wake of the COVID-19 pandemic and all the questions and all the gaslighting that happened under the Biden administration about no, the Wuhan lab, it was an accident, it was an animal, et cetera. Now we're seeing this Chinese lab, linked biolab in Las Vegas. Kevin, your reaction?
Yeah, and we know COVID-19 didn't come from a pangolin or bad soup, but what's important to note is that this isn't an isolated incident. That we actually had under the Biden administration a very similar situation happen a couple years ago in Southern California, where there was another biolab that happened out of a warehouse. So these are definitely scary situations, and so if we take a step back and look, we definitely need tighter regulation on a lot of these different strains and how are they getting these types of materials. I mean, it is a scary situation, and I just like to point out that when it comes to Maxine Waters, she is.
There was so much other videos I could have showed. I just didn't have time. But it's funny how much hate and the jokes write themselves. Miss McGilla sitting here having hate for Black Americans while there's literally Chinese individuals going to, I'll say Asian individuals because I actually don't know who all was there, but definitely Chinese. We're going over to Africa, picking up babies by their heads. Epstein files. Damn, I shouldn't even say that word. The files, all of the files, so happen to be what? Pale men. So it's funny. All the people that seem to have hate for Black Americans seem to always be dealing with each other in very wicked ways. But also, I'll say it like this. They also are destined to take each other down. And that's why a lot of times I was going to say a lot with this video, but I'm getting amused at this point because it's almost like they're gasping for straws. And every single time you just let them continue to talk, it just becomes like a joke writes itself. It's almost like everything they say just so happens to show up or have shown up. It's just like everything that they say just doesn't add up. You guys are sitting here worried about Black Americans, and he has a whole map talking about how to avoid Black Americans when it would keep Black Americans from being around school shooters. It'll seem to keep Black Americans away from all of the communities that seem to breed PDFs, such as the files, such as the Somalis with the child brides, such as a lot of these immigrant communities that do child brides and stuff like that. So we're in a league of our own when it comes to how much hate that we're receiving. But what brings me peace is seeing that because they give each other passes so much, they just destroy each other with their own wickedness. Like, for instance, you let a bunch of people who are PDFs across the border and illegal birthright citizenship. They come here, you train them to hate Black Americans, but then while they're here, they're absorbing all your resources, driving up your criminality, and then they all seem to be into kids, just like the people that brought them over here and broke the rules and seem to control all the government and control all of the institutions and stuff. It all seems to be people of a certain type, right? Pale people, right? And so all of these people also look up to the pale people, and they do all of these same things in their community. But what's going to happen is they're going to continue to do things such as this, where they're going to keep trying to bring us into something that they can't stop from happening on their end. Like, judgment is happening on their end. They are reaping the rewards of being parasitic people of different communities. Like, people are seeing everybody for who they are by people pointing out people as well. So it just co-signs a lot of things that we've been saying. All of the insults that come our way don't even really land because it's all figments made up. And so what seems to be happening is if we literally just continue to sit here and watch people, they have the lemming mentality where they're just going to go off a cliff when it comes to how they do things, what they do. And honestly speaking, it's very amusing. At this point, I think I've seen every single group represented within about a 2-week time span openly say their hate for Black Americans. But I'll just say this, family, just don't worry about it. But the joke's right itself. I really wish I could have said more, but I think a lot of these topics need to be looked into because they can turn a blind eye to all of these things going on, and all I see is that makes them just as wicked as the people doing it. And this is why delineation is great, because all of these individuals are wicked from all of these communities. They're letting things happen to their kids. And then even in this country, the people that run this country are the pale people, and they allowed this and they promote it in their communities as well. And this is why everything is happening how it is. And I am so happy to be born a Black American, not African, not foo-foo, and not any part of any of these tether communities that have not brought anything of substance and value to this world and seem to be the only thing wrong with this world at this point. Collectively, together, and everything.
Any experiences with segregation here in this country?
Well, I've just got something quite insignificant. You know, people get to know that I'm a foreigner, and so they treat me differently. When I came at first, I tried to get an American haircut, appeared in American clothes as best as possible and as much as possible, just for people to discriminate against me. And I've never had such an occasion. I've been trying to get it, but I mean, it seems as if I've been getting the best, actually.
You met segregation at all here?
I've not met it. I think they must be pretty lucky, because I've been looking forward to get this segregation against me, but have not got it yet. It's an irony that a South African will get it and I wouldn't get it myself.
100,000 people who required assistance from HUD. 25,000 of them are deceased, and 6,000 of them are illegal immigrants who should have never qualified in the first place. The Public Housing Authority, which basically owns HUD, is giving them 30 days to figure this shit out. They now have to go through and verify that every single tenant who is receiving this assistance is actually supposed to be receiving this assistance. They want to make sure their tenants are alive, and they want to make sure their tenants are legal. And if the tenants don't feel like cooperating with this, then they're going to have to pay back. I mean, they should anyway. And if the tenants don't feel like complying and cooperating with this, then they're going to have to pay the money back.
That you receive Section 8 payments for, or voucher payments, some kind of subsidized HUD payments for, you're going to get back charged for that as well. All this is taking place right now, and you have to prove it within 30 days. This is serious stuff. And for the tenants who are going to be impacted by that, this isn't just bureaucratic red tape. This is your home. And I know this is very serious. And this is serious in multiple ways. I realize that, one, you may lose your subsidy. You may lose your lease anyway, because now you're a risk to your landlord. And at this point, this makes the landlord have to choose between helping you and preserving themselves. It's not a good situation to be in. And all of this is on top of additional proposals coming out that will slash housing vouchers for millions more people. Everybody watching this video, please share.
Let's just say things are about to get very, very interesting, because right now I've seen a lot of tethers coming at Black Americans. And so what I want to say is, I'm glad all of this is happening, because a lot of people don't really think the way I do, and I'll say it like this, right? So I believe that everything is fair. I believe that there's something like what you guys call karma. And I believe that what you invest, what you do, comes back around to you. And I also believe that everybody gets what they deserve in the end. So when people do bad decisions, I feel like that's when it finally catches up to them. And so a lot of people that are being affected aren't people that just randomly just got to get affected. They said there's so much fraud that they have to go after it, right? And so what I enjoy is, I'm gonna give you an example. So I used to live in Atlanta. I'm there now visiting family. And one of the issues I had getting out of high school was finding a place to stay, because they did a lot of crazy things when it came to the job market. Like at this time, there was a lot of Hispanics moving in, and a lot of the entry-level jobs around me and everything like that were Mexican restaurants and stuff like that. So they priced us out of that. They priced us out of, because, you know, they would have the automotive shops, the same thing. And so even if we had schools and stuff like that, you know, all of the shops, they would only give to foreigners. So Africans and all that stuff. So we would never be able to get into any type of job. So we would have to work for the government or go all the way to the city and stuff like that, go all the way out of the area. And so I later on heard as well, the reason why it was hard to get housing was because a lot of these illegal people would get these housing vouchers, and then of course we heard about them running across the border, and then there was giving them thousands of dollars, and a lot of them would get into one house, and then the renters would, you know, boost up the price of the place and stuff like that, so that normal Americans wouldn't be able to afford it, because, you know, they got 20 people that ran around and they got a card, and they, you know, they all got 9K. So they're, you know, it's you're competing with people that have disposable income at a crazy situation. And so, you know, the housing prices of many places went up. And so what I love is everybody is getting justice, because now if they illegally helped these tethers, meaning that people that came here, ate off the country, didn't help, and overall helped with the destruction of the economy versus adding to it, right? They did numbers, so I'm not going to go through all of that. And so now if they did this, now what you have is the tenants have to kick out the tethers, or they have to get the money from the tethers, because regardless, they most likely knew the tethers were illegal. I feel like there are some people that are going to get screwed in the situation, but hey, but a lot of them knew, right? And so what's now going to happen is all of that housing that they decided to discriminate against with Black Americans and stuff like that, now everybody that was, doing shady business, getting money because they knew, it was illegal money and all that stuff. So they will suffer because they're going to have to deal with so many people that they decided to allow to do that. Because if they would have been fair and honest, what are the odds that they would have had this many tenants that are illegal? So we're going to see who was actually following the law, because no one's just like, oh my God, I didn't know. So we're going to see that. It's going to show people's true colors. And we're also going to see all the communities involved in all of this stuff, because it's going to be the normal things that we normally see. Now, when it comes to certain individuals that made destructive decisions, we already know those individuals. That's already on the chopping block. But I'm talking about you tethers, because the issue with you tethers is you guys thought you could now hide and do all these things, and then also the tethers had all the businesses too. But what this allows is for them, because they didn't self-deport, to now force them to be grabbed up, because even though they drew down in Minnesota, it's because they have a bigger plan, because now it's illegal to be homeless, and now you tethers will be homeless, most likely not speaking the language, and you will be alienated because you decided to think you were better than Americans, Black Americans, and you decided to talk bad and stuff like that. Now you guys have more tethers making terroristic threats, tethers making jokes saying that it's funny that ICE is not going after Black Americans. He wishes, well, now because you guys want to keep doubling down, the Most High is now doubling down. So now he's getting a lot more of y'all. So imagine not being able to hide tethers, because now you're going to be paying for the tethers that you hide, and you still have to back pay. And then so the tethers will be on the streets because they decided they didn't want to go in self-deport, because they were scared of the airport, they're scared of the doctor, they're scared of all these places because they were legally here. And then so now if you're on the street, then you're able to be grabbed up. And if you're able to be grabbed up, they have all those huge facilities that they have ready for you for the homeless, aka also the illegal people. So the funny thing is, all is well, because if you was not scamming, you're fine. If you was not if you were not benefiting from the scam, you will be fine. If you was doing everything you're supposed to be doing, you will be fine. What it sounds like is a lot of scammers, communities of scammers, people cheating the system, people benefiting from the system, people that have sucked out more of the system than they put in, people that have went and sent their money overseas to do evil things. Those people seem to be getting dealt with, because what I like is now they don't have to send people in, and even if they do that, they can now focus on people that they really want to get. But now the tethers we're going to see a lot of tethers, and that's going to be very, very interesting, because I could have sworn they were so much better, they worked so much harder, and this and that, and now, since it's Black History Month, now people can get a history lesson on what they did to our community, and they tore up homes with the Section 8 and stuff like that. But you guys actually did not deserve these benefits, and you're mooching off of them and exploiting them. And so now you will see what happened to our community firsthand that you guys made fun of. And this is why I said a lot of the things that are happening are people eating their words that were making fun of Black Americans, and honestly making fun of people that were less fortunate of them, that they didn't understand, because they were just hateful individuals. And so everything is about to be made right, because a lot of communities that deserve this type of energy are about to get it, because while they're sitting there hoping that somebody else gets into suffering with them, the suffering sounds like it will increase for criminals. So if you are a criminal, you probably feel bad right now. If you are part of a criminal community, you probably feel bad right now. If you are part of criminal organizations, you probably feel bad right now, because it sounds like there's only two sides, just criminals and people that have been doing what they need to follow the law, get by, and do an honest living, which are most Black Americans. So my community is Black Americans. We will be fine because we wasn't benefiting from any of the criminality that all of your communities were committing together as Psalms 83, the 83 crew, all right? So the 83 coalition.
Which is really sad. It's a problem that is so difficult to address because these videos, they're not being posted on mainstream social media. They are being posted in a country where the social media platforms that are used are exclusively for that country. So like people outside cannot see exactly what is going on. So these people are doing all of these things and they're getting away with it. Now for tier 4, these are videos where a grown person tells kids to say things that are degrading to themselves and Black people as a whole. You know, this is just, I don't even know what to say about this. It gets infuriating. You know, there are videos of grown men touching on young kids, videos of grown men slapping babies, beating up other people's kids. But what is really disturbing about this type of content is the things that people are saying in the comment section. Like, you see a video of a grown man slapping a baby, throwing a pillow on a baby that is just lying there, and I don't know where the mother is. Like, how can you trust a stranger in your house with a baby? I don't know what relationship he has with the mother, or maybe like he's just a stranger who came in. I don't know what is going on, but how can people watch a video of a grown man doing this to a baby and they don't even condemn it? In fact, they encourage it, and the comments are just vile and nobody's calling it out. Like, how is this? How? I don't even know. Like, how? I don't even know where to start. Or maybe it's just me. Maybe I am being sensitive, but
我啥也不是，
啥也不是，
我就是大悲难，
大悲，
我是大悲难，
我是黑鬼，
是杀鸡。
So in recent years, there has been a disturbing trend that has emerged on Chinese social media platforms. So for those of you who don't know, China's internet is totally separated from the rest of the world. In China, all foreign apps, all international apps that basically everyone else uses, apps like WhatsApp, YouTube, Google, any app that you can think of is completely blocked, just to make all manner of content. So today I'm going to talk about a subgenre of this type of content that I find especially disturbing, something that I've been seeing for years now. These are videos that feature children, African children. So if you go on my YouTube channel, you are going to see that this topic is something that is really far from my niche, and it is something that I really don't want to talk about, but nobody has really been drawing attention to this problem. I know.
Anyway. By order of Overseer Betty Pearson, the snack budget for the products of the Inbreeding Support Group has been rescinded, and the Inbreeding Support Group has been dissolved. Calm down.
So, Black Americans, fellow Black Americans, I just wanted to say this real quick because I'm amused that a lot of people haven't gotten it yet on why nothing is going to happen when it comes to these files. Let me tell some of y'all a sad reality. that you haven't understood yet, right? Most people are okay with this. I know that sounds crazy. I know that sounds extreme. But no, most people are okay with this, right? So what a lot of you guys don't understand is that when it comes to a lot of these foreign communities, they do this. All the stuff in the files, they do this. If they're not directly part of the trade, the trafficking, they do this. There's a lot of Hispanics that have cultures of them forcing themselves on their nieces and nephews. It's a whole thing. Asia, they be doing a lot of different things. They go overseas, they abuse children in Africa and stuff like that. In Africa, they allow people to abuse their children. They sell their children off. They do all these things. A lot of these cultures have child brides. A lot of these cultures do incest. A lot of these people that got brought past the border did a lot of these same activities that the elites were doing, but they were doing it for free. What a lot of you don't understand is a lot of people are okay with this because they have done stuff borderline or they dabbled in these things. Let me ask you a question. How many feminists really care about the loss of children's lives, right? When I thought that they were fighting people outside of the abortion clinics and stuff like that, and they were talking about how much they like destroying babies, and they go there over and over again, 304s. They say, hey, we're going over and over again to get abortions. I could have sworn that happened. I could have sworn the letter organization, the whole thing is to like be against the nuclear family, and not to mention, as I said before, aren't they the number one pushers of birth control, alternative lifestyle living? Aren't they the ones that said F the kids and stuff like that? So I don't get, who's supposed to be coming up and standing up to the plate? When you're talking about the number one Americans doing evil things to children, it's obviously pale males. How else are you going to be able to create systems in which this is happening? How are you able to create organizations where this is happening? How are you able to do big businesses where this is happening? And no one wants to point that out. So when it comes to Americans, who's left? Black Americans. We're the only ones where this is not a part of our culture. We didn't bring it to the United States. If anything, it was forced on us. And the funny part is, a lot of you guys are looking to the community where they did that to our people. The same thing they did to our people. You guys said, hey, well, why aren't you guys stopping the abuse of children, women, and other people? Wasn't this country built on this? If they won't apologize before, why would they apologize now? All they're doing is letting you know, hey, we've been about this life, and now we're letting you know, hey, if you ain't down for the team, then whatever. That's why you see their lackeys coming out defending it in some sort of way. That's why you see a lot of people turn their head towards the side, because they're all the type that will say, hey, if it's for the greater good, I don't care. A lot of people around you are wicked. That's why a lot of people try to talk down on individuals like me, saying, oh, you talk about people, say they're wicked and stuff. What a lot of you guys don't understand is if you are a repentant human being, meaning that you do things such as, hey, person's breath stinks, I'm gonna lie and not say that their breath stinks or whatever like that. That's the normal sinner, right? The normal sinner is doing things like that. But these other individuals, what you guys don't get is they don't believe in a higher power. They don't believe in a system in which they get punishment. They don't believe in anything past this. This is why a lot of them are quick to sell out, and a lot of them do these things. But like I said, this is culturally acceptable in most cultures. If you actually think about it, a lot of these thought process behind what we believe is sacred and things of that nature comes from biblical text. If you listen and read a lot of these other holy books and things of that nature, you'll see that for one, children and women are not put at the same standard, and also they have ritual practices that speak against this. Caribbean culture, you see them sexualizing and bringing kids into sexual dances at an early age. You see grown women twerking all over children. Like I said, a lot of these cultures, they bring perversion, ritual sacrifice, cannibalism. They still have cannibalism all the way in places like even in Kenya. There's plenty of tribes that still do cannibalism, ritualistic cannibalism. And then you wonder why they're putting the stuff in our food and everybody's silent. Because a lot of people, as a Black American, I'm going to say it like this. If you know our real history, if you know our real culture, we don't come from that. That's why all of these people can have all of these countries where they come from, where supposedly they have militaries, they have all of these agencies and stuff like that, and they don't protect their people. It's because they are all part of the problem. Yes, it's good versus evil, but most people are evil. I'm going to be real. The reason why you won't see anything really happen is because a lot of people, when they made things happen, it was a political statement. They weren't out here doing the work. They weren't out here doing research. They looked at a video and got mad. So how much could you guys really care? If you're just now getting in on this, I get that you could be new to the truth, but how much do you really care about the truth? Because a lot of you guys actually make this a part-time job, and that's why a lot of us are sitting back and just looking because we're amused. Because if you didn't already know this stuff, I can't say that you're not appalled, but if you didn't know this stuff and it was already around you, how much can I really expect y'all to do anything anyways? I don't expect anybody to do anything, because like I said, I actually look around me and see what different cultures are brought around. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Bachabazi, right? Where they go and do the little stuff, and they abuse these little boys and stuff like that, and have them dance around and stuff. That was literally pretty much the Super Bowl show. You dance a man like a male like a female. You dance them around for a bunch of celebrities, billionaires, and stuff like that, and then whoever wants to take them home is whoever wants to take them home. That's why you then see these parties and all of this culture stuff. It's like they went all around the world to import people that think like them. That's why you got all these immigrants and stuff like that. You won't see anybody talking like that. But then also, a lot of them are getting initiated. Psalms 83 is getting initiated into Esau's kingdom. That's literally what's going on. Because if you notice the new system, I'll say it like that. The new old system, Rome reinvented, however you want to say it, whatever. A lot of these individuals have already been doing these things, and the reason why you won't see anybody else saying anything is because there's a very small population that actually doesn't come from this stuff, and it actually doesn't do this stuff, and that's Black Americans. This is why, like I said, you won't see anything happen, because what you'll start to realize is everybody around you been on that stuff. That's why when they all start bringing out the cloaks, the cult cloaks, and all of the worship of the cult stuff, you'll see everybody just fall in line. They've been a part of it. A lot of you guys are going to find out. I'll say it like that.
Of why it is that Afghanistan is like this, you have to understand that the Afghan government have done everything in their power to erase women from society. So first of all, fully covered. There are new laws where women aren't allowed to even speak in public. They can't open their mouth and talk. They can't go to schools now. I heard something the other day where I think women have to cover up one of their eyes. So basically, instead of looking through the mesh of their headscarf through, two eyes, they have to cover one up because apparently 2 eyes is too many. And women aren't allowed to leave the house without a male relative, which creates a whole series of problems for families that don't have male relatives. Let's say you've just got a disabled parent or something, and you've only got daughters in the household. Young girls are having to dress up as boys to go out and get a job to provide for the family, kind of like the movie Mulan. Like, it's full-on cross-dressing going on in Afghanistan. But it's not only that way around. As you can see, it's boys trying to look like girls to appease the sexual fantasies of the men who don't get any normal sexual interactions with the opposite sex. And then you have girls having to dress up as boys to go and get stuff done in a society that doesn't let girls do anything or even leave the house. So that's a whole thing. You've also got the Taliban recently legalizing slavery. Like, the Taliban have just brought back slavery, and also under the new system, punishment for the same crime is no longer determined primarily by the nature or gravity of the offense, but by the social status of the person accused. So in other words, if you're an imam in a mosque and you've been accused of homosexuality, you're off the hook because you're a religious figure.
Listen to that. I hope you heard that.
Or if you're a political leader, if you're a member of the police force, it doesn't really matter. So human rights, equality, just completely gone. It always happens under Sharia law. And I believe there was a story from a few years ago, because I wrote an article on this about a year ago on my Substack, where essentially what happened was the Taliban was able to overtake a police headquarters in Afghanistan by bringing in a bunch of these dancing boys to dazzle them. And so they brought them into the police office. The police officers were just dazzled by the prospect of being able to rape these young boys. And the Taliban were able to then distract them enough to poison them and murder them, and then basically take over the police headquarters. So that tells you a lot about not only the Taliban, but also the police headquarters before the Taliban, where they were so dazzled at the prospect.
I was asleep before. That's how we let it happen. When they slaughtered Congress, we didn't wake up. When they blamed terrorists and suspended the Constitution, we didn't wake up then either. Now I'm awake. My name is Alfred. I had another name.
Ladies, I have to let you go. It's the law now.
They needed to do it this way. All the bank accounts and the jobs all at the same time. Can you imagine the airports otherwise?
You girls will serve the leaders and their barren wives. You will bear children for them.
Planned visit. Photographs have circulated online showing Epstein visiting British entrepreneur Richard Branson at his Kenyan coastal property in Malindi. The timing of the visit is unclear. Malindi has been repeatedly identified by child protection organizations as an area with high rates of child sex tourism. There is no evidence suggesting Branson had any knowledge of Epstein's crimes or that Epstein engaged in illegal activities during any Kenya visit. Epstein's contact directory seized by authorities also contains the contacts of Cookie Gallman, the Italian-born Kenyan conservationist and author of I Dreamed of Africa. Gallman, now in her 80s, has been a controversial figure in Kenya, facing conflicts with local Maasai and Samburu communities over land rights. She was shot and injured during clashes in 2017. There's no indication of the nature of any relationship with Epstein or whether she even knew him personally. Several of the emails reference visits to rural areas and Maasai communities. Some contain language that seems to characterize African communities in ways that suggest an exploitative mindset. In one exchange, Epstein responds to Siegel's mention of visiting a mud hut by writing, "You will be amazed by the aroma." In another, Siegel jokes about Maasai warriors and Somali pirates. But
have raised questions about the extent of Epstein's international reach. Kenya has long struggled with child sex tourism, particularly along its coastal regions. According to UNICEF, areas like Malindi, Mombasa, and Kilifi have been identified as hotspots where foreign tourists exploit vulnerable children. The country has strengthened laws in recent years, however, enforcement remains a challenge. It's against this backdrop that the Epstein documents have generated speculation. In December 2009...
So I'm kind of glad this topic kind of came up, because me personally, I had some very interesting experiences in Kenya and things that I've noticed. And I put this on other videos. But I was talking about how... So I went on a year, I think it was like a 1.5 year long trip. I spent some time in Ethiopia and some time in Kenya, and there was many things that I've noticed. Now, this was before the entire wave of TikToks of Africans saying, oh, we don't know where we came from. Like, I always knew that they didn't like us because I'm a Black American. I know everybody doesn't like us because they all hate. They all, you know, are jealous, envious, or whatever. But I keep a really open mind. I don't care. I was tired of dealing with the mailman, right? So I was like, hey, let me go try somewhere else. The mailman's not here. They're not. It's like I grew up in Atlanta, so I'm talking about you put your application in, they have your driver's license, they see you're Black, you're not getting a job. I had to work for the government most of my life because of how prejudiced and racist Atlanta, Georgia is, right? And so after a lot of these experiences, I was just like, okay, hey, I'd rather go somewhere, right, where, yeah, you're not gonna, like, you're gonna know I'm different, but you're not going to go to the extent of the United States. And this is what a lot of these tethers are finding out, right? So I go over to Ethiopia. The issue I had with Ethiopia is most of them did not know English. And this is where a lot of the trafficking stuff I started to notice. They have a lot of their society. This is what ended up happening. I'll say it like this. While over there as a Black American, I noticed that they keep them poor over in Africa so that they can go over there and take advantage of them and exploit them. And at this point in time, I did not know Africans had so much disdain for us. And at this time, I did not know how much I didn't know how much time and effort they were putting in a lot of these tethers and you know, destabilizing us, going against our efforts. And a lot of this stuff happened after I got back as well, especially when social media really made it more open. I was never one of those people who's like, oh, I'm African, because no, I know my background. I'm Muskogee Creek. I'm a Black American, but my family is real Native Americans. They're real Native Americans. That's why a lot of y'all don't know what you're talking about with the fake Siberians or whatever. Anyways, yeah, before y'all say, oh, his hair is a mix. No, this is how my hair is because we are the real Native Americans. Muskogee Creek, look it up. My dad's probably Seminole. Anyways, so I was in Ethiopia and I noticed that they kept everybody poor, and everybody that came there, I seen them real disrespectful. I seen the colorism and stuff like that. I didn't like it. And so, you know, I would just treat people how I want to be treated. And overall, there's good and bad people everywhere. I noticed they do a lot of idol worship. That's another topic for another day. Anyways, there wasn't a lot of English there. So I ended up moving to Kenya. Now, keep in mind, there was beautiful, curvy women in both places. Kenya, I love the beach. I'm originally from Hawaii, so I was in these places on the coast and near the beach and everything like that. These exact places mentioned, Kilifi, Mombasa, and Malindi. I did a lot of work in Malindi, actually. And so when I was out there, I noticed all of these really beautiful, curvy, beautiful chocolate-skinned women. And, you know, they have different lighter shades too, but mostly just, I was just like, dang, right? But I noticed every single time I seen somebody Italian, half Italian or whatever like that, a white person walking around, they always had the most thinnest, smallest looking girls all the time. I'm talking about, like, so if you seen, like, even out there on the beach, a lot of the women since they, like I said, they try to keep them poor so they can exploit them. This is what the rest of the countries were doing. So I was trying to bring business and knowledge there. I was actually warning them about the United States when I was there, because there was like, hey, why would you come here from the United States? I said, well, it's complicated, but I said I can do more business out here versus some places in the United States, and it's because of my race, etc. I said you guys are at least a little bit more open when it comes to dealing with a foreigner, because I'm a foreigner. I have something that you want, so it makes it easier for me. So that's how I was going about it. I never thought these people were my friends. I was like, if you're cool with me, you're cool with me. But I always know, hey, it's only my family. They're the only ones that really got my back. But other than that, everybody's a new person, right? And so I always noticed, I was like, that's some weird stuff. I'm talking about some baddies. I'm like curvy. I'm talking about slim, thick, all the way thick, right? All these women just walking around, but every single time you've seen them, they always had a female that was always looking like she was a preteen, a teen. I always seen them hanging out with children. That was another weird thing too. And they always had a lot of stuff, and yes, they have orphanages, but my thing is, I was just like, there's no way in hell you have all of these actual women shaped like women here, and the majority of y'all keep going to these thin, like it's like, nah. And these are the women that they had in public. You have no idea what they were doing behind closed doors. And I just seen a lot of exploitation, and they exploit each other. And so it's really easy to put two and two together when you start to go to this, like who adopts a child overseas? That's already suspicious. And then the main people that be trafficking and come up, the main ones adopting people are the same ones that you always see looking like the ones that are in the shots of the people that do it all the time, right? You know exactly what I'm saying. I'm not trying to say it like that. You know what I'm saying? And so point being, that was one thing that really, really bothered me, because my thing is, I'm all about protecting innocence no matter where it is, and who it is. But I'm not going to be a Captain Save of something when your community this is your community and this is what you do. But I noticed that, yes, this is very rampant there. I seen a bunch of Mayo men walking around with females that definitely look like children, and none of the Kenyans ever said anything. Now, what they did do was watch me sit there, and some of them liked me, some of them didn't, some of them were jealous, some of them were a lot of them were always trying to do something to, trying to take advantage, something like that. But like I said, I'm sitting here looking, and I'm like, oh, and their women will always just go to the Mayo men. Like, they would never really approach you. Like, they might look at you, they'd be like, you look good and stuff, but you actually got to do something. But that's what I noticed. So I was like, so out of the pick, you have all of these curvy women come up to you, but you don't ever do anything. You don't ever talk to nobody unless you're with somebody that could be passed as a child, look like a child. You're always walking with somebody passed as a child and shaped like a child. And I'm talking about, you have literally the pick of everybody. And that was always suspicious.
Now, all of this might make it a lot more clear as to why the CCP has been able to stitch together the largest collection of American DNA profiles anywhere in the world, even larger than what the US has been able to collect. And the CCP has done this, by the way, not only through good old-fashioned hacking, but also through more traditional channels, such as purchasing the data from DNA sequencing companies. But sometimes the CCP does not even have to purchase this data. As an example of what I mean by that, this right here is BGI. They are one of the largest manufacturers of prenatal tests used around the world. And wouldn't you know it, this company, BGI, they've been sharing the genetic data of pregnant women from 52 different countries with the Chinese military. And at this point, you might be wondering two questions. First of all, what use does the Chinese military have with all this data? And second of all, what would be the explanation, the benign explanation for sharing? Well, the answer to that second question is actually rather simple. It has to do with a concept called precision medicine.
Okay, guys, I'm on the scene where the FBI and the Vegas PD just busted up a possible Chinese bioweapons lab. And I found some pretty interesting things. Check this out. Now, here's a place where they said they found refrigerators with unmarked, unknown liquids. which is actually linked to another bioweapons lab that was found in Reedley, California. But check this out. Now, the house is right over there, but look where it is located. It's literally steps away from this right here, you guys. From the reservoir and pumping station. There you go, right there. So what does this mean? This means whatever they had planned, they want to be close to the water supply. So the last house that they busted up had HIV, Ebola, malaria, you name it. Now, this home was owned by a Chinese national by the name of David He, which was an alias, and he actually transferred the home to David Destiny Discovery, then fled to China post the 2023 Reedley raid. And not to mention the property manager, Ori Solomon, had multiple passports, including a French passport and an Israeli passport. Now, David He has been in custody since the 2023 raid, but not one, not two, but a third house that he actually owns in Clovis, California pops up as well, so need to look into this one too. And I've been telling you guys for a long time that China has been playing 5D chess when it comes to the invasion of America, because remember this? This happened last year where 3 Chinese scientists were smuggling in dangerous agricultural
U.S. congressman has just exposed what is really going on behind the scenes. He's saying that this is a national security issue. He's saying it's happening in multiple states like California and Nevada, and we are being warned that this could potentially be the thing that causes a next big health scare in the United States. This could be the issue. This could be the reason for it. So let's get into all the details here. You guys can see this is a warning that was just posted from Rep. Kevin Kiley. He's coming out of California. This is what he said. An illegal bio lab was just raided in Vegas. It is directly linked to the secret Chinese lab found in California in 2023, which was oozing with E. coli, HIV, and malaria. Congress must pass our bill to find these illegal labs and shut them down. All right. So he is issuing a warning on these labs. Let's listen to this.
A serious national security issue that requires the immediate attention and immediate action from the United States Congress.
I'm starting to think the flies are gonna turn into the zombies. So I was sitting there watching the ICE protest, and I just wanted to talk to the Black Americans. I just wanted to talk to the fellow Black Americans real quick for humorous purposes, because the irony, I don't know. So do you guys ever sit there and wonder, right? What makes every community but our community qualify for white guilt as well as protest and, you know, outrage? Like, what have these communities collectively done where they have selective outrage, where they'll say things like, remember 9/11, remember the Holocaust, remember all of these things, and then they'll say, but slavery, that's a joke, and then they'll call you a slave, and then, you know, they'll write it in your comments. They still write it in your comments too. But then it's like, oh my God, they're throwing illegal people out. And you see the people huffing, puffing, crying. You see people that have never did really physical activity in their life, bad, just out of shape, everything, like out there fighting federal agents, right? And their claim is because they are fighting racism, but they totally didn't do none of this for the actual the racist crimes against Black Americans, such as hangings and stuff like that, that were like, out of people don't find themselves just in trees. And on top of that, us Black Americans really, I think a lot of Black Americans can share this same sentiment with me. We don't learn how to tie nooses to lynch people. So finding a Black American with a rope around their neck, specifically with that design, we don't teach each other that. We don't know those skill sets either. And that's a lot of work for somebody that wants to commit, off them, And so my question is, if you didn't catch it, what did these communities collectively do that makes them the only ones that qualify for sympathy, public outrage, public support? Because we don't have the same sentiment when it comes to reparations. Like I said, they can say, hey, you guys are grabbing them because you guys are racist and they're brown people. But the people that a lot of them that they're grabbing broke the law or seem to fit the description. If we decide to go with law enforcement and stuff, so if you fit the description for a suspect, I don't know. It's interesting how it's okay when they do it with Black Americans. When someone says, hey, well, I don't know, it was I guess a black guy, which is just a lie that a lot of people say all the time. And then they ask the description and they say, hey, don't worry, we're just going to grab every black guy in the area. They don't mind when law enforcement does that and, and puts us in a lineup. But now when they do it with people that don't belong here according to the law, now it's an issue. So what have they done? What have they done? What have they secretly agreed to where they all ignore our real world problems and they have sympathy for all of the problems they brought upon themselves? Also, it just seems to be that like all of the scams and all of the criminality seems to collectively benefit every single community but ours, because regardless, when Somalis steal billions of dollars and bring it back to Somalia, the Somalians are benefiting from it. Then when they say, oh, well, it was a white person to help with it, well, then it goes right back to the white community, right? Okay. And then you guys own the Leering centers and the white people own everything else. So then the money circulates back into you guys' community. So regardless, whenever we start breaking all of that down, hey, you bring a bunch of illegal Hispanics in here, right? And they go and vote for Democrats and they give them a bunch of free money. That doesn't help the black community. It seems to help the Hispanic communities to break the law. Not only that, but to get incentives. And then it helps the Democrats, which are white people who pass things for everybody but black Americans. So, as I said before, collectively, everybody else is benefiting but us with criminality. You let the Asians in here and you find out that they're running biolabs in Vegas and things of that nature. They're getting businesses, they're getting the house loans and stuff like that. They're getting stuff and they're foreign nationals, but us as black Americans can't get those same home loans. So the housing market gets to benefit because they get dirty money, they get foreign money, and then the Chinese get to benefit because they get to do whatever the hell they want, breaking the law and stuff like that because they have the money to. So it sounds like everybody's benefiting from, except for black Americans. Same thing with the fake Native Americans, the Siberians. They've been getting handouts to do incest and drink on reservations, and that benefited them, and the people that put them in the place to fake as the real Native Americans, they benefited because they got to smuggle money through the camp of inbreeding drunkards. And so that means all of them benefited, but it didn't benefit Black Americans who actually went through slavery, who actually fought for civil rights, the Black Americans who actually still defend civil rights, the Black Americans who only are the people at this point have ever changed the world through civil rights and how we protest and how we do things. The other people, it's kind of crazy. It's just a outlet. They like to just rage and beat on each other and wear weird things and you just like, so are you guys serious? Because the last time I checked, you don't wear costumes to something where people are, you know, supposedly having a serious situation. But nonetheless, it's just very interesting how all of these people all of a sudden have a conscience, but when they have a conscience, right, they seem to help out the same communities that they've been helping out, and they all collectively seem to do criminality. So let's just say in this situation, right? So you have actual Americans committing criminality, covering for people that they were smuggling money through or using to vote for their politics. So regardless, we still have people benefiting from each other that have nothing to do with Black Americans. So just everybody Psalms 83. But I just wanted to point that out. But if you guys have another answer besides it being, I think that they're collectively against us, and I just am pointing this out. But if you guys have another suggestion, let me know. But I just wanted to kind of point that out. I said it's crazy. You don't see these people having those tears or anything or sympathy for any of the many Black Americans that have been unjustly brutalized, like where they were defenseless. I mean, it's tortured, you know. But they don't have the same sentiments and energy towards that they do with all of these other groups that have not been here suffering like we have. They started just deporting them, and you see more tears for them than you see for the amount of police brutality that we've had up to this point, so that the police have the training to do what they're doing now. It's a joke. But this is why delineation is important. This is why sitting out is important. And honestly, if you are out there and you claim to be a Black American, you're not a Black American. Because one thing we're going to say is you are an African American. And if you aren't with the movement, you aren't with the movement. But I just wanted to point that out, the hypocrisy. Us Black Americans, we are authentic individuals. And we don't stand with fake. We're too real for that.